Oran had never seen so many species in one place. The observation deck stretched for miles, filled with creatures of every shape and size. Some floated, some crawled, some stood on legs that numbered from 2 to 20. The young diplomat pressed his 4 hands against the viewing glass and stared at the arena below. The Crucible Games. He had heard stories about them his entire life. Every 50 cycles, species from across the galaxy gathered here to prove their worth. Combat, survival, strategy, will. The games tested everything a species could be. Winners earned respect, losers earned pity, and those who failed completely were often forgotten by history. "You seem nervous," said Elder, his mentor. She stood beside him, her body calm and still. She had watched these games many times before. "Not nervous," Oran said. "Excited. I have studied the competitors for months. The warriors are favored to win again. Their combat record is perfect for the last 300 cycles." Made a clicking sound that meant she was amused. "And what of the other teams?" "They are always dangerous. Their mind powers make them difficult to defeat. They are nearly impossible to kill. They are perfect predators." Oran had memorized every statistic. He wanted to impress his mentor. "I predict they will face thee in the final trial." "You have forgotten someone," said. Oran checked his mental list. He had studied 72 teams. He was certain he had covered all the important ones. "Who?" "The humans." Oran made a dismissive gesture with his lower hands. "The humans, they are barely worth mentioning, a young species. They have only been part of the galactic community for 3 centuries. Their technology is average. Their bodies are soft and weak. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities." He shook his head. "They will be eliminated in the first trial." Did not respond. She simply watched the arena. A few minutes later, Oran noticed something strange. The observation deck had grown quiet. Thousands of aliens had stopped their conversations. They were all looking toward the eastern entrance. The human delegation had arrived. There were 12 of them. They walked in a tight formation, wearing simple gray uniforms. Their equipment looked almost primitive compared to the gleaming technology carried by other species. They had no hovering platforms, no energy shields, no visible weapons except simple metal tools strapped to their bodies. Oran studied them with confusion. They looked so ordinary, so fragile. The tallest one was barely half the height of a warrior. The strongest one looked like he could be broken in half by it with minimal effort. "Why is everyone staring at them?" Oran asked. He looked around the observation deck. The delegation had stopped their war chants. The ancient beings who rarely showed emotion were leaning forward with interest. Even the predators who feared nothing seemed uncomfortable. "Why are they nervous?" Oran pressed. "They could kill those humans in seconds." "Yes," agreed, "they could." "Then why do they look like they are facing a threat?" Turned her ancient eyes toward her student. "Because they remember." "Remember what?" But did not answer. She returned her attention to the humans as they walked to their assigned quarters. Every step they took was watched by thousands of eyes. Every movement was tracked and analyzed. Oran did not understand. He had studied humans. He knew their history. They came from a small planet called Earth. They had nearly destroyed themselves several times before reaching the stars. They had no great achievements in galactic politics. They had no famous warriors or legendary champions. So why did the galaxy watch them like they were something to fear? The opening ceremony began an hour later. Each team was announced and given a chance to display their strength. They performed a war dance that shook the arena. They lifted massive stones with their minds. They allowed weapons to strike their silicon bodies without taking damage. When the humans were announced, they simply walked to the center of the arena. They stood in their formation. They did nothing impressive. They just stood there, 12 ordinary-looking beings, and waited. The crowd was silent. Then one of the humans, a woman with short dark hair, raised her hand in greeting. She smiled. The silence continued for a long moment. Then, slowly, something unexpected happened. They began to pound their fists against their chests. It was a gesture of respect. Other species joined in. The sound grew until the entire arena was thundering with acknowledgement. For 12 fragile beings who had done nothing but stand and smile. Oran turned to his mentor in complete confusion. I do not understand. They showed no strength. They demonstrated no power. Why does the arena honor them? The first trial will begin tomorrow, said, ignoring his question. The descent. 72 teams will enter the tunnels of a hollow asteroid. They will face environmental hazards, hostile creatures, and each other. Only the strongest will reach the core chamber. The humans will be eliminated, Oran said with confidence. They have drawn one of the worst starting positions. They will face thee and thee in the first sections. It will be over quickly. Made that clicking sound again. Perhaps. You disagree. The elder was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer, almost sad. I watched the humans compete in the Crucible 60 cycles ago, she said. I was young then, arrogant. Like you, I believed they would be eliminated quickly. Like you, I thought I understood what strength meant. What happened? His eyes grew distant, lost in memory. They taught me that I knew nothing about strength, nothing about will, nothing about what a species can become when it refuses to accept its own limitations. But they are weak, Oran insisted. Their bodies are fragile, their technology is average. What could they possibly do that would impress someone like you? Place one of her hands on his shoulder. The gesture was gentle but heavy with meaning. Watch them, she said. Watch them carefully, and when the trial is over, tell me what you have learned. The next morning, 72 teams were dropped into the asteroid's tunnels. The cameras activated. The galaxy watched. And Oran, still certain of his predictions, settled in to watch the humans fail. He had no idea that everything he believed about strength, about power, about what it meant to be worthy of galactic respect, was about to be destroyed. The tunnels of the hollow asteroid were a nightmare made real. Ancient machines still guarded the passages, firing weapons at anything that moved. Strange creatures lived in the darkness, hungry and vicious. The walls themselves were dangerous, covered with toxic minerals that could burn through most armor. Oran watched the holographic displays with growing excitement. Dozens of screens showed different teams fighting for survival. The warriors were cutting through obstacles with brutal efficiency. They floated through passages, using their mind powers to clear paths. They simply walked through dangers that would kill other species. He searched for the human team and found them moving through a narrow tunnel in Sector 7. They were going slowly, too slowly. They are wasting time, Oran said. The other teams are already halfway to the core chamber. The humans are still near their starting position. Watched without comment. On the screen, the humans had stopped completely. They were gathered in a circle, talking. One of them was drawing something in the dust on the ground. Others were pointing in different directions. What are they doing? Oran demanded. They should be moving. Every second they waste puts them further behind. They are planning, said. Planning? There is nothing to plan. The objective is simple. Reach the core chamber. Survive. That is all. Made her clicking sound. Is it? Hours passed. The casualty reports began to come in. A team from the outer colonies had been caught by automated defenses. All dead. 2 teams had encountered each other in a narrow passage and fought. Both were eliminated. A single hunting pack had killed 3 teams in the first 6 hours. The humans continued their slow, careful movement. They avoided the main tunnels. They took paths that seemed to lead nowhere. Several times, they stopped and waited in complete darkness for long periods before moving again. Oran grew frustrated. They are cowards. They hide while others fight. This is not how champions behave. But then he noticed something on the tactical display. The humans were somehow avoiding every major threat. When they moved north, the humans went south. When the automated defenses activated in Sector 12, the humans were already in Sector 15. When two powerful teams began fighting in the Eastern Junction, the humans were watching from a safe passage above. "How are they doing that?" Oran asked. "How do they know where the dangers are?" "They are watching," said, "listening, thinking. They cannot match the strength of other species, so they use something else instead." "What?" "Patience, planning, the ability to see the whole picture instead of just what is in front of them." 12 hours into the trial, disaster struck. Deep in the asteroid, ancient power systems began to fail. Tunnels started collapsing. The careful routes that teams had planned became death traps. Dozens of competitors were crushed or trapped. Panic spread through the asteroid. Teams abandoned their strategies and ran for safety. The strong trampled the weak. Former allies turned on each other to reach secure passages. The cameras showed chaos everywhere, everywhere except Sector 15. The humans had stopped running. While every other team fled in terror, the humans were working. They had pulled equipment from their packs and were building something. Supports, braces, barriers against the falling rock. "What are they doing?" Oran leaned forward, not understanding. "They should be running. The collapse will reach them in minutes." On the screen, the human team leader, a woman named Sergeant, was shouting orders. Her team moved with practiced speed. They reinforced a tunnel junction, creating a stable zone in the middle of the destruction. Then other teams began to arrive. A group of small, frightened creatures from a peaceful world. Two survivors from a species Oran did not recognize. A wounded warrior, separated from his team. The humans let them in. They guided them to safety. They showed them where to stand, how to avoid the falling debris. More teams came. Species that had been trying to kill each other hours ago now huddled together in the space the humans had created. The humans organized them, calmed them, protected them. The collapse intensified. A massive section of ceiling began to fall directly above the junction. There was not enough time to reinforce it. Everyone would die. Sergeant grabbed a support beam and braced herself against the wall. She shouted something to her team. They hesitated. She shouted again, her voice cutting through the chaos. The other humans began moving the survivors toward an escape tunnel. One of them tried to stay with. She pushed him away. "Go," she ordered. "That is not a request." She held the beam. The ceiling pressed down. Her arms shook with the effort. Dust and debris rained around her. The survivors ran. One by one, they escaped through the passage the humans had found. The other human soldiers went last, each one looking back at their sergeant. Smiled at them, then the ceiling came down. The screen went dark. Oran sat in shocked silence. Around him, the observation deck had grown completely still. Thousands of aliens had watched a human die to save people she had never met, people who had been her enemies. When the final results were announced, the humans placed 7th out of 72 teams. Not impressive on paper, but the numbers did not tell the real story. "She died for strangers," Oran said quietly. "She died for species that would have killed her if they had met in different circumstances. Why?" His voice was soft, "Because that is what humans do." "But why? What purpose does it serve? She gained nothing from her death. Her team lost a valuable member. It makes no sense." "Perhaps not to you, not yet." On the screens, the surviving humans had gathered in the court chamber. They stood in silence, heads bowed. One of them was holding something small in his hands. Oran enhanced the image and saw that it was a piece of fabric, a patch from Sergeant's uniform. The humans were speaking, but the cameras could not pick up their words. Whatever they said was private, sacred. Oran watched them for a long time. He did not understand what he was feeling. It was not admiration, not exactly. It was something deeper, something that confused him. "The second trial begins tomorrow," said. "Direct combat. The humans have drawn thee in the first round." Oran looked at the 11 remaining humans on the screen. 11 fragile beings against the galaxy's perfect predators. "They will be slaughtered," he said. But even as he spoke the words, he was no longer certain they were true. The arena for the second trial was a ruined city. Broken buildings rose toward an artificial sky. Rubble covered the streets. Shadows hid countless ambush points. It was a killing ground designed to test every aspect of combat. Oran arrived at the observation deck early. He wanted a good position to watch the human team face the betting markets had not even offered odds on this match. Everyone knew how it would end. But when he reached his usual spot, he found it already crowded. Dozens of delegations had arrived before him. The warriors stood in full armor, watching with intense focus. The elders had gathered in unusual numbers. Even species that rarely attended combat trials were present. "Why is everyone here?" Oran asked. "Word has spread about the humans," his mentor replied. "The galaxy wants to see what they will do next." "They will die. They are perfect predators, 8 of them against 11 humans. The math is simple." "Math," repeated. "Yes, the math does seem simple." The teams entered the arena from opposite sides. They moved like shadows, their bodies designed for killing. Each one had claws that could tear through metal, speed that could catch any prey, and senses that could track the smallest movement. The humans walked in their tight formation. They carried weapons that looked like toys compared to natural armament. Their soft bodies had no protection except thin armor plates. Before the match began, something unexpected happened. The leader, a massive creature covered in scars, stopped in the center of the arena. He raised one clawed hand, signaling for his pack to wait. The humans stopped too. Their leader, a tall man named Captain, stepped forward alone. The leader spoke, his voice like grinding stone. "We have seen what your kind did in the tunnels. The female who held the ceiling. She died with courage." Nodded, her name was Sergeant First Class. "We will remember that name." The leader drew a claw across his own chest, leaving a thin line of blood. It was a mark of respect. "Today we will kill you, but we will kill you with honor." "We appreciate that," said. "We'll try to return the favor." The signal sounded. The match began. They attacked immediately. They scattered into the ruins, moving with terrifying speed. Their plan was obvious. Surround the humans, cut off escape routes, pick them off one by one. The humans did something strange. Instead of forming a defensive circle, they also scattered. They broke into small groups and ran in different directions. "What are they doing?" Oran demanded. "They are separating themselves. They will hunt them down easily." But as he watched, he began to understand. The humans were not running randomly. They were moving with purpose. They were communicating through hand signals and short bursts of sound on their equipment. They were leading them exactly where they wanted them to go. The first fell into a trap. A building collapsed on top of him, not enough to kill, but enough to slow him down. 2 humans appeared from hidden positions and fired their weapons until the predator stopped moving. The second chased a lone human through narrow passages. He was faster, stronger. He caught up easily. But when he pounced, 2 more humans emerged from the shadows. Crossfire from 3 angles. They fell. But the cost was high. The bait human did not survive the initial attack. She died with claws in her chest, still firing her weapon. "They are sacrificing themselves," Oran whispered. "They are trading lives." "Not trading," said. "Giving, there is a difference." The battle continued. It was nothing like Oran had expected. They were superior in every physical way. In a fair fight, they would win easily. But the humans refused to fight fairly. They used every trick, every trap, every advantage the environment provided. They turned the ruined city into a weapon, and when tricks were not enough, they used something else. They used themselves. A human medic drew 3 into a dead-end street. She knew she could not escape. She knew she would die. But she also knew that while the focused on her, her teammates would get into position. She lasted 47 seconds. The camera showed her fighting until the very end, screaming and shooting and refusing to stop. When they finally killed her, they were wounded and exhausted. They walked into a kill zone without even realizing it. The remaining humans opened fire from every direction. 2 more fell. She knew, Oran said, his voice shook. She knew she was going to die. She went there on purpose. Yes. Why would anyone choose to die like that? Turned to look at him. Her ancient eyes were sad but proud, because she trusted her teammates to make her death matter, and they did. When the battle ended, 4 humans remained standing. The ground was covered with bodies, 3 human dead, 5 dead, and 3 on their knees, having yielded. The observation deck exploded with noise. This had never happened before. They did not surrender. They fought until death. It was the core of their culture, the foundation of their identity as predators. But these 3 had chosen differently. Oran watched the surviving humans gather around their dead. They did not celebrate. They did not cheer. They knelt beside their fallen teammates and wept. Captain removed his helmet and pressed his forehead against the blood-soaked ground. On the other side of the arena, the 3 surviving watched. Their expressions were unreadable, but one of them spoke, loud enough for the cameras to capture. They are more dangerous than we knew. They do not fight to win. They fight because they cannot imagine stopping, because surrender is not in their blood. The leader rose on unsteady legs. He looked at the humans crying over their dead. We yielded, he said, because continuing to fight would have dishonored what they sacrificed. Even predators can recognize when they face something greater than prey. The humans left the arena carrying their dead. Every species in the observation deck watched them go. Oran could not speak. He could not process what he had seen. A species with no natural weapons, no special abilities, no physical advantages had defeated the galaxy's perfect predators. And they had done it by being willing to die. That night, Oran could not sleep. He kept seeing the medic's face. The moment she had realized there was no escape. The moment she had chosen to stay and fight anyway. He did not understand. He was not sure he wanted to understand. But he could not stop watching. Oran spent the night reading about human history. What he found disturbed him more than anything he had witnessed in the arena. Humans had spent most of their existence fighting each other. Wars that killed millions. Weapons designed to destroy entire cities. Cruelty on scales that made other species seem peaceful by comparison. They had come close to ending themselves dozens of times before they ever reached the stars. But mixed with the horror, he found something else. Art, music, stories about sacrifice and love and hope, poems written by soldiers who knew they would not survive, songs sung by people facing impossible odds. The humans did not hide from death. They wrote about it. They sang about it. They turned it into something beautiful. They are broken, Oran told the next morning. Their entire species is psychologically damaged. No healthy culture celebrates death the way they do. Is that what you see? Asked. Celebration. What else would you call it? They write poems about dying for each other. They build monuments to those who sacrifice themselves. They treat death like something noble instead of something to be avoided. Was quiet for a moment. Perhaps you are looking at it incorrectly. They do not celebrate death. They celebrate the choice to face death for something greater than yourself. There is a difference. Oran did not understand the difference. He was not sure he wanted to. The next combat round was announced. The humans would face the... This news sent shockwaves through the station. They were the tournament favorites. 8-foot warriors who had dominated the Crucible for centuries. They were stronger than, more disciplined, more experienced. And they had watched the human matches very carefully. Before the combat round began, something unprecedented happened. The champion, a veteran named, approached the human team. His massive form towered over them. The humans did not run. They did not show fear. Captain stepped forward and looked up at the warrior who could crush him with one hand. "We have studied your people," said. "We have seen what you did in the tunnels. We have seen how you defeated the—" and asked. The champion did something no one had ever seen from his species. He bowed, a deep, formal bow of respect. "We recognize worthy opponents," said. "Your bodies are weak, but your spirits are not." Returned the bow. "We know what you are. We know we probably cannot win, but we will fight anyway." "Yes," agreed. "That is why we respect you." The battle that followed was unlike anything in Crucible history. There were no tricks this time, no traps. The arena was open ground. They would not be deceived the way they had been. They knew human tactics. They had prepared. The humans took casualties immediately. 2 fell in the first minute, then a third. But they did not break. They did not run. They adapted. They fought in pairs, each one protecting the other. When one fell, the survivor did not grieve. They found a new partner and kept fighting. When they were wounded, they did not retreat. They pressed forward. Oran watched a human soldier take a wound that should have killed him. The blade had pierced his chest. But instead of falling, he grabbed the warrior's arm and held on. He would not let go. He kept the trap while his teammates attacked from behind. He died holding that arm, and died moments later. "They use their wounded as weapons," Oran said. "They use their dying as distractions. It is horrifying." "It is effective," replied. "But the cost, look at the cost." 7 humans were dead, only 4 remained, but they had killed half the team. And still they fought. Captain was the next to fall. A blade caught him across the back. He went down hard, but before he died, he looked at his remaining soldiers and spoke. "Make it count," he said. "That's an order." The 3 remaining humans charged. 3 fragile bodies against 5 warriors twice their size. It should have been slaughter. But humans, Oran was learning, did not care about should. They fought with everything they had: knives, fists, teeth. They climbed on the warriors and attacked weak points. They sacrificed limbs to create openings. They turned their own deaths into weapons. When it was over, 1 human remained standing. Private Tors, the youngest member of the team. He was covered in blood. Most of it was not his own. Around him lay the dead, 9 humans, 4. And 3 on their knees. They had yielded. The greatest warriors in the galaxy had surrendered to a single wounded human. Was one of the survivors. He looked at Tors with an expression that mixed pain and amazement. "Why do you not stop?" he asked. "You have lost everything, your leader, your friends, your team. Why do you not surrender?" Tors was crying. Tears ran down his face, mixing with the blood, but his voice was steady. "Because they didn't die so I could give up. They died so I could keep going." Stared at him for a long moment, then he bowed again, lower than before. "We have fought many species," the champion said. "We have never faced anything like you. You are not strong, but you are something more dangerous than strong. You are unbreakable." That night, Oran found himself outside the human quarters. He did not know why he had come. He just needed to understand. Tors was sitting alone, surrounded by the personal effects of his dead teammates. 11 sets of identification tags. 11 lives reduced to small pieces of metal. "May I enter?" Oran asked. Tors looked up. His eyes were red from crying. "Sure, why not?" Oran approached slowly. He sat across from the young human, trying to find the right words. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why do you do this? Why does your species agree to participate in these games? You knew you would die, most of you anyway. You knew and you came anyway." Tors picked up one of the tags. He held it gently, like it was something precious. "Because if we don't, who will?" he said. "Every species here looks at us and sees something weak, something they could prey on if they wanted to. So we come here and we show them what weak costs. He looked at Iran with those tired, tear-filled eyes. We show them that killing us is possible, but it's never, ever free. Iran had no response. He sat in silence while Tors held the tags of his fallen friends, and he felt something changing inside himself. He was beginning to understand why the galaxy whispered about humans. And it terrified him. The final trial was called the Ascension. Each remaining competitor had to climb the spire alone. The structure extended from the station into the burning corona of a dying star. Heat, radiation, gravity fields that could crush bones, and automated defenses that had killed thousands of competitors across the centuries. 6 finalists remained, an elder with centuries of experience, 2 whose silicon bodies could withstand almost anything, a veteran named who had survived his battle with the humans, a who had fought through a different bracket, and Private Tors, 23 years old, human, alone. The betting markets had him at impossible odds. How could a single wounded human compete against beings with natural advantages, that could float upward with mind powers, that could ignore most environmental dangers, even and had bodies designed for extreme conditions? Tors had a radiation suit, climbing equipment, and whatever remained in his squad's supply pack. Iran watched from the observation deck as the 6 competitors approached the base of the spire. Tors looked so small next to the others, so fragile. He cannot win, Iran said. The mathematics are clear. His body will fail long before he reaches the top. Mathematics, repeated. You keep using that word. Because it applies. Strength, endurance, natural abilities, numbers that can be measured and compared. By every measurement, he should fail. Made her clicking sound, and yet here we are, watching, wondering if he will. The trial began. The competitors raced upward through the lower sections. They took an early lead, floating gracefully through passages that would kill most species. They trudged forward with mechanical determination, climbed with warrior efficiency. They moved with predatory speed. Tors climbed like something that should have died long ago, but refused to accept it. He was slow. His movements were careful and deliberate. He stopped frequently to check his equipment, to plan his next section, to rest muscles that were already pushed beyond their limits. But he did not stop. He did not quit. Iran found himself leaning forward, unable to look away. At the midpoint, the spire's defenses activated. Energy barriers appeared without warning. Gravity wells tried to pull competitors off the structure. Plasma vents released killing heat at random intervals. One was caught in a gravity crush. Its silicon body cracked like glass. It fell, tumbling into the star's corona below. It was fast but not fast enough. A plasma cascade caught it mid-leap. Its body burned as it fell. The elder, ancient and powerful, reached a section that overwhelmed its telekinetic abilities. Too many threats at once. Too much strain on its aged mind. It retreated, floating back down to safety. 4 remained, the surviving and Tors. How is he still alive? Iran demanded. The radiation alone should have killed him. The heat should have cooked him inside his suit. Did not answer. She was watching the human with an intensity Iran had never seen from her. Near the apex, the 3 survivors reached the final platform. They could see the summit above them. One last obstacle remained, a force barrier that allowed only one competitor to pass. The rules were clear. Only one could win. The others had to yield or die. And they turned on each other immediately. Ancient rivalry. Neither species would surrender to the other. They clashed on the narrow platform, strength against strength. Tors watched them fight. He was barely conscious. His radiation suit was compromised. Iran could see burns on the human's exposed skin. His breathing was labored. Every movement seemed to cause pain. He could wait, let them destroy each other, claim victory by default. He did not wait. Tors moved between them. His small, broken body stepped into the space between two giants. "Stop," he said. They did not hear him at first, or perhaps they chose to ignore him. The swung a massive arm, raised his blade. "Stop," Tors shouted louder this time. They paused. They looked at this fragile creature who had placed himself in their path, who should be cowering, who should be praying they would kill each other quickly. "There is another way," Tors said. He pointed at the force barrier. His hand shook with exhaustion. "The barrier can be destabilized, not by one, by three, working together." Stared at him. "Why would you share victory? You could wait for us to kill each other. You could claim the summit alone." Tors smiled. It was a strange smile, tired and sad and somehow still hopeful. Because victory was never the point. He looked at the warrior, at the soldier, two species that had been enemies for longer than humanity had existed. "The point is showing what we can be, all of us, together." There was a long moment of silence. The dying star burned below them. The summit waited above. Then lowered his blade, he unclenched its fists. They approached the barrier together. Three species, three competitors, three beings who had every reason to kill each other. They worked in coordination. Their combined effort found the weakness Tors had seen. The barrier flickered, faltered, failed. Together they crossed to the summit. It had never been done before. The Crucible had no rules for shared victory. The judges debated for hours while medical teams rushed to treat Tors, whose body had finally given out the moment he crossed the threshold. In the end, the ruling came down. All three were granted full completion honors. But everyone watching knew who had truly won. 3 days later, Oran visited Tors in the medical wing. The human would survive, though he would carry scars for the rest of his life. "I understand now," Oran said, "why the galaxy speaks of your species in whispers. It is not your strength. It is not your technology. It is your refusal." "Refusal?" Tors asked weakly. "You refuse to accept limits. You refuse to accept that you are weak. You refuse to let your dead have died in nothing." Oran's voice caught. "And you refuse to let even your enemies fall when you could help them rise." Tors was quiet for a long moment. "That is not what makes us special," he finally said. "What makes us special is that we keep doing it, generation after generation, even when it costs us everything. We keep choosing to be what we want to be instead of what we are." The human delegation departed the next day. 11 caskets, one living soldier, wrapped in bandages, saluting as each casket was loaded onto their ship. A delegation approached, then others, species who had fought the humans, species who had only watched. They stood in silence, a moment of respect from the galaxy's warriors to the species that taught them what strength truly meant. Oran finally understood the whispers, the legends, the fear and respect. Humanity was not renowned for what they could do. They were renowned for what they were willing to do, for what they would sacrifice without hesitation, for the simple, terrifying truth that killing one of them meant nothing, because another would always rise to take their place. And when that one fell, another would rise. And another. And another. The galaxy watched the human ship depart, and for the first time in centuries, the great species of the stars looked at each other differently. Because they had seen something impossible. They had seen a species that was weaker than everyone, beaten by no one. And they wondered, with growing unease, what would happen when humanity stopped playing games and started playing for real.